And we are back. Welcome to my previews and predictions for Game Week 5 in La Liga. The European week is over and it is time to dive back into domestic club football once again as we look ahead to two videos as always on a Friday morning. This is my La Liga predictions. In an hour's time, we will have my Premier League predictions posted as well for the weekend. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video. If you enjoy all of my prediction series, share it with a friend, subscribe with notifications turned on so not only you don't miss out on the Premier League video we're going to be posting shortly, but the launch of the new Europa League series we have got coming up for you next week as well. You guys were smashing it on the Champions League videos. Hopefully we'll see all of you again for Europa League next week. And if you want to gain access to even more previews and predictions for this weekend, such as La Liga, no, doing La Liga here, such as Serie A, the Bundesliga and Ligue 1 is what I was trying to say, you can become a member of the channel by hitting the join button at the bottom of your screen right now. As for today's video then, as always, 10 matches in La Liga this weekend. So without any further ado, let's get kicked off with tonight's only game, which is Real Betis taking on Real Sociedad. Yet another Real versus Real fixture. And for Sociedad, they have played all three of Real Oviedo, Real Madrid and Real Betis back to back to back. Unfortunately for Sociedad, they lost both matches to Oviedo and Madrid. Will they be able to put it right against the final Real in Betis? Well, to be fair, Betis, they've not been on the best run of form either. They lost at home to Bilbao the last time they played here and then drew away at Levante last week. That means that coming into this, Betis are only on 6 points from their opening 5 matches. They have played an extra game due to their Europa League commitments coming up in a couple of weeks. However, that is still better than what Sociedad are doing because they have only managed to accumulate just 2 points from their opening 4 games. Really not a good start for them. In terms of the team news, there are no fresh injury concerns for Real Betis, but the likes of Isco, Marc Bartra, Ricardo Rodriguez are still going to be absent for this one. For Sociedad, Oscarson remains a major doubt for this one. He missed the Real Madrid match last week and is not expected to return for this one. Last season, both of these fixtures were won by the home side. It was a 2-0 win for Sociedad at home, but it was a 3-0 win for Real Betis here back in February. I do think that Real Betis right now are just in a slightly better spot than Sociedad, and because they're the home side as well, I'm going to back them to back up last year's victory here. But I'm going to give Sociedad a goal. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory to Real Betis. Saturday starts with two sides currently occupying relegation zone spots as it is 20th place Girona taking on Levante, but only 1 point for either of these sides so far this season, and both of them only got that point in last week's matches. For Levante, it was that draw with Real Betis that we just spoke about. For Girona, it was a 1-1 draw away to Celta Vigo after rather sloppily giving away a penalty in stoppage time. But to be fair, regardless, I still think an away draw to Celta Vigo for a side that had been majorly struggling is a decent result for Girona for last week. In terms of the team news, both teams, should I say, had players go off with knocks last week. Roca went off for Girona and goal scorer Iong went off last week for Levante. As it stands though, both of these players are expected to be available for this match. And as we saw last week, Girona are starting to get a few of their other players that had been injured at the start of the season back in their squad, so we'll see probably more of them this weekend. To be fair though, coming into this match, there is no recent head-to-head record to speak of. The last time these two sides met was all the way back in 2019, and obviously Girona have had a whole rebuild since then. Levante have been relegated and promoted again since then, so you can't really read into that at all. What I would expect from this game is both teams to score. Neither of them have been particularly good defensively so far this season. But my deciding factor is going to be how I think they performed last week, which I do think was a better result for Girona than it was from Levante, and Girona are the home side in this game. Like I said, I'd expect goals, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Girona. From two sides currently occupying the relegation zone to two sides occupying the top 3 in La Liga so far this season, as we see two unbeaten sides going head-to-head here in Real Madrid and Espanyol. Real Madrid have made an absolute perfect start to the season. 4 games, 4 wins in La Liga, and of course that 1 game, 1 win in the Champions League after their 2-1 victory over Marseille in midweek, albeit a highly controversial victory with some very, very questionable penalty decisions in that match. For Espanyol, it is 3 wins and a draw in La Liga. Obviously no European football for them, but I think that is an absolutely phenomenal start from them so far this season. And in the 4 matches in La Liga, they've actually matched Real Madrid in terms of how many goals they've scored. So do not rule them out in this fixture. They are playing some very good stuff so far this season. In terms of the team news, both sides are coming into this with a player suspended, as both sides had a player sent off last week. For Real Madrid, it was Dean Huijsen in even more controversial circumstances. And I think the most controversial thing of the lot is that the La Liga have decided to uphold the red card decision, even though there was quite clearly a player covering. For Real Sociedad, 2 yellow cards for Miller means he is suspended for this one as well. Also for Real Madrid, Trent Alexander-Arnold's hamstring injury means he is going to be out for a couple of months, so naturally he is not going to play in this game. But Jude Bellingham is back in the squad for this one. Unsurprisingly, Espanyol's record, especially at the Bernabeu, is absolutely horrendous, but they did manage to sneak a 1-0 win at home against Real Madrid last season. Like I said already, I do think Espanyol are capable of producing a result here, but I think it would still be a big, big surprise. I'm going for a 2-0 victory to Real Madrid. Next up, it is another team that I think has had a very surprisingly good start to the season in Alaves. They are up in 7th place right now, and they are going to be taking on Sevilla. They backed up their draw against Atletico Madrid with probably the result of last weekend, winning away at Athletic Club Bilbao. For Sevilla, they've only managed to take 4 points. That's all right, to be fair. Sevilla have taken 4 points from their last 2 matches. However, a 2-2 draw at home to Elche still doesn't see them in the best position coming into this match. In terms of this game, there is actually no injuries and no suspension concerns for either side. So we're going in at a complete face value as things stand. Alaves are unbeaten in their last 3 league home games against Sevilla and also won the 2 games they played last season. So there's a really good chance here, I think, that Alaves can extend their good run to the season. And given how last week went for Sevilla as well, I would definitely have Alaves as favourites for it. I'm going with a 1-0 victory to Alaves, which could see them way up towards the Champions League places come the end of the weekend. Speaking of Champions League, it is Champions League losers, unfortunately for them. Villarreal taking on Osasuna this week. It was a pretty poor week for Villarreal, it has to be said. They lost away to Atletico Madrid, and as we just mentioned, they lost away to Spurs in midweek, both games without scoring. For Osasuna, their flip-floppy start did continue with a 2-0 home victory to Rayo Vallecano last weekend. So, as I say, I think it's a decent start for them, but it's not the sort of start that you would suggest means they're going to go to Villarreal and get a result in this one. In terms of the team news, exactly like the last game, no fresh injury or suspension concerns for either side coming into this off the back of the midweek game and last week's matches respectively. Last season, it was an unbelievable game with a 4-3 victory to Villarreal here, and they've also won all of their last 3 matches at home to Osasuna. I think the crucial factor coming into this is that Villarreal have won both of their home games in La Liga so far this season without conceding, and Osasuna have lost their 2 away games so far in La Liga without scoring. So realistically, it is Villarreal's game to lose, and I'm going to back that pattern to continue. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Villarreal. Finally then, for Saturday, it is Valencia taking on Athletic Club Bilbao. And as we've just spoken about it being a disappointing week for Villarreal, it has equally been a disappointing week for both of these sides. Valencia come into this off the back of a 6-0 hammering from Barcelona. Still not quite the 7 they conceded last season. For Bilbao, it's back-to-back home defeats for them without scoring a single goal. 1-0 defeat at home to Alaves last weekend. 2-0 defeat in midweek at home to Arsenal. So, again, it's just a really, really tough one to call this one, in my opinion. Coming into this, there are no fresh concerns for Valencia. and no fresh concerns for Bilbao, but Nico Williams is still expected to be out of this one. And despite having no real part to play in the match because he is the reserve goalkeeper, I should always once again mention that Padilla remains suspended for his red card a couple of weeks ago. Last year, both matches, home and away, ended in a 1-0 victory to Athletic Club Bilbao. And what's really interesting is that in the last 10 meetings between these sides, there has only been one game that has been decided by more than one goal. So it's always very, very, very close between these two sides. For me, the way both of them have started the season, it's one of those classic games where it's either going to be 0-0, 1-0 either way, or a 1-1 draw. That is the option I am going to go for. I can't split them right now, even though on paper, Bilbao have had a better start to the season. I do think Valencia are a stronger side at home. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw. On to Sunday then, and well, we've just spoken about a 1-1 draw, so what better place to go next to than Celta Vigo, who actually did it and got their 4th consecutive 1-1 draw. Unbelievable. I said it last week. Has it ever happened before that there's been 4 consecutive 1-1 draws? I do not know, but they've managed to do it. 4 1-1s in a row after that stoppage time penalty against Girona. For Vallecano, it's actually only 1 point from their last 3 matches, but this is only their second home game of the season. And the first one, they did draw against Barcelona. Any prizes for the score? You guessed it. 1-1 it was against Barcelona. Coming into this, no fresh concerns for the away side, but Luis Felipe appeared to suffer a muscular injury for Vallecano in their defeat to Osasuna last week. So all expectations are he is going to miss this game for the home side. Last season, both games were won by Vallecano, both by a margin of 2-1. And to be honest with you, I do expect Vallecano to be the favourites for this match. I would thoroughly expect them to get the result. And to be fair, 2-1 does look like a pretty appealing scoreline for this match. However, as I always say on this channel, my predictions are just for fun. I provided you with the info that I think will give you the best opportunity to make your own prediction, but I cannot look away from the potential of a 5th 1-1 draw in a row because I genuinely believe it is a possibility. So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for history, and I'm going to go for a 5th consecutive 1-1 draw for Celta Vigo. I hope it happens just for the pure hilarity of it all. But again, Vallecano, in my opinion, are the favourites for this match. Speaking of favourites for a match, it is most likely Atletico Madrid that everyone has favourites coming into this one against Mallorca, whose incredibly tough run of fixtures at the start of the season continues. They have now played all of Real Madrid, Barcelona and Atletico Madrid all in their opening 5 games of the season. So I don't think it's any surprise that they're currently in 19th place, given how tough their run of fixtures have been, but I just don't see them getting any sort of bounce back in this game against Atletico Madrid after what has been a very good week for Atletico Madrid, it should be said. Winning 2-0 against Villarreal after failing to get a win in their first 3 matches, I think is a really strong performance for them. And then the performance at Anfield genuinely needs to have some credit put beyond it because they were 2-0 down. They pulled it back to 2-2. Marcos Llorente having an absolutely brilliant performance, and then Liverpool did what Liverpool have done all season, unfortunately, and got that last-minute winner. In terms of the team news coming into this, there are no fresh concerns for Mallorca, but for Atletico Madrid, the likes of Julian Alvarez, Alex Baena, Jose Jimenez are still all going to be missing for them. To be fair, Mallorca do seriously need to step things up. I mentioned that they've had some tough fixtures already this season, but they did lose last week against a 10-man Espanyol, and I feel like they are going to have to step it up if they're going to get any sort of result in this one here. Atletico Madrid have won the last 5 matches between these two sides, including the 2 games, of course, last season. The last 2 here were 1-0 victories to Atletico Madrid. And to be honest, that sounds like a pretty damn good scoreline for this one once again. So that is what I'm going to go for, a 1-0 win to Atletico. Penultimate game of the weekend then sees 2 of the promoted sides going head-to-head, and it is unbeaten Elche taking on Oviedo in this one. To be fair, Elche have drawn 3 and only won 1. Oviedo have also only won 1, but they crucially have lost the other 3, including their match last weekend. No fresh concerns for the hosts coming into this, but Vidal went off last week for Oviedo, and Vinas was sent off for 2 yellow cards within the space of a minute, so he is going to be suspended for this one as well. Obviously, I think it's pretty clear that Elche should be considered the favourites for this match, but if you want any more reason to go for them, last season in La Liga 2, it was a 4-0 victory here for Elche over Oviedo. Honestly, I don't think there is too much more to say about this one. I don't think the victory will be as severe as it was last season, but I'm obviously going to go for the Elche victory here. And I'm going for a 2-0 victory to them. And then last but certainly not least, we have Barcelona taking on Getafe. Both sides have made really strong starts to their respective La Liga seasons. Barca, 10 points from 4 games. Getafe, 9 points from 4 games, including beating Oviedo last time out. But in their last away game, they did lose 3-0 to Valencia. And obviously, if you remember what we said earlier, Barcelona beat Valencia 6-0 last week. So, unsurprisingly, Barca very, very strong favourites for this match. And, of course, last night as well, a very, very strong performance and a 2-0 victory away at Newcastle. In terms of the team news, no fresh concerns coming out of the game at St James's Park last night. And Lamine Yamal could play some part in this fixture. As things stands, it remains to be seen. For Getafe, despite Kiko and Akbar going off with injuries, sorry, Abkar, not Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. Both went off with injuries last week for Getafe, but as things stand, it looks like both of them should be available for this one. One final thing to note is that Barcelona did only manage a 1-0 victory in this fixture last season, and it was a 1-1 draw at Getafe. So they have previous of putting in good performances against Barcelona, but I still think with the way Barca are playing, with the number of goals they're scoring, I would still expect Barcelona to come out on top here pretty damn comfortably as well. I'm rounding off today's video with a 3-0 win to Barcelona. And that is going to be it for today's previews and predictions. All that is left to do is to show you what you guys have been saying over on the community page. And to be honest, it's been pretty mixed throughout. There's a lot of games on the board there where you guys are really not sure where it's going to go. You're pretty damn certain that Barcelona are going to beat Getafe, and you're pretty damn sure Atletico are going to beat Mallorca. But other than that, there's some proper ones in there. Vallecano, Celta Vigo, 62% of you going for the draw. Hopefully that's because you're all thinking 1-1 as well. But you look there, Deportivo and Sevilla, Girona and Levante, even Betis and Sociedad tonight. There is a lot of debate going on about these La Liga fixtures this weekend. It's a pretty damn tough week to call. That's what you guys are saying. This is what I think is going to happen this weekend. So as always, let me know down in the comment section below anything you agree with or disagree with regarding today's previews and predictions. A massive thank you very much for watching once again. I'll see you in about an hour's time for Premier League Game Week 5.